Hey guys, welcome to Frank's Handyman. Today you're going to be watching us do two projects, starting with putting on some ceiling panels at this Panda Express, which is in the mall. Most of them were pretty in good shape, but some were dirty, and I would say one or two were a little bit worn out. So we had to take them all out. In total, it was about 10 of them, and it wasn't a very complicated project. All you really have to do is, as you can see here, is push them up, and then at a certain angle try to bring it down. And once you do, same thing, you kind of just put it back in at an angle, and you kind of just move it around. You tap it that way. As you're tapping it, it's also going into place. This one was a little bit more difficult just because there were some cables in the way, but once we got them out the way, it fit perfectly. And for the majority of these, it's going to be the same step that you're going to be seeing us do. Just kind of push them out and then putting a new one. When we were putting them on, one of the caps from the lights came off a little bit, but it was just something that was easily repairable. You just had to really just push it back in. This one right here required a cut just because, as you can see, there's that little corner cut right there that needed to be made. That way it could fit well. And this one was in the kitchen part of the business. Most of the panels that we repaired were on the back side. And this one, it was at first a little bit difficult just because there was a metal wire that was preventing us from pushing it up, but eventually we got it out. And then this one right here was the most complicated when it came down to making a cut for it. He did it with the blade. But once he ended up cutting it, it came out perfectly, as you can see. And then it was just all about placing it in. And that was the last one that we ended up putting at this place. Then once we got done with that, we moved on to another location where we're gonna move this stove right here and take it out. And where the stove is, we're gonna put new plywood. Once they took the stove out, they started to brainstorm how they were gonna take out that flooring right there. Since there was a lot of items around it, they were gonna have to make cuts around it as well. As you can see, before they started cutting, they started using a different method, using this, trying to hammer it in and then just pull out the old wood. And right here, this is a voltage pen. It will detect if there's electricity. And what they ended up doing was shutting off the electricity. That way they worked a lot more comfortable, knowing that the electricity was shut off. And knowing it was off, you can see now they started getting into the process of making the cuts right here. Just cutting all around the items. Now they're cutting all the edges out because they're gonna take out that whole piece. So they have to do it from corner to corner, just do the whole thing. And then just to make it easier, what they decided to do was to cut it in 3 pieces. One starting on this side, on the right side, one in the middle, and then one on the left side. That way they just were able to pull it off a lot easier. As you can see here, it came off a lot easier. And then they moved into the middle section. And once making the cuts around all those items, it was a lot easier to take out everything and then start cleaning everything around just to prepare for the new items that we're going to put on. And here's just him cleaning everything out, all the excess plastic and all the excess material that was around. Once we finished cleaning, then we moved on to this, which is going to be the insulation that we're going to put under before putting the plywood. So they're just making the measurements, that way they're able to cut around it. And they're also making the measurements for the board that's going to be going on there, well, the plywood. And he's starting the process of putting in the insulation before we ended up putting the plywood, of course. And while he's finishing up with this, the piece that's going to go on there, he finished cutting it. And this little piece right here, once they measured it, it was going to be on the way, so they had to cut it off. And right now he's going to cut it in 3 ways. Like I said, it's going to be here one piece, and then the middle piece, and then the last piece. So 3 pieces in total. That way he's able to section it off and be able to make the cuts around all the things that are right there for like the gas pipe and everything, and the electrical cord. And then once he measured everything moved pretty quickly. The really challenge that was going to be coming up was going to be putting in the middle section, just because that's where we had to make a lot of these smaller cuts. He moved on to making the piece for the middle section, and that's going to be going in the very front first, as you can see right here. And then our other colleague just here getting an idea of where he's going to have to make the holes for all the cords that are going to be going through it. Now they just had to make sure to draw the right measurements and be able to trace the piece that they were going to need. And once they got that, they started cutting out the piece. As you can see, these are the little small cuts they have to make, that way all the cables are able to fit through them. And once he finished putting that in and settling it in, that was it that we did for today. You can see it's a big difference now. All they really had to do was screw it in, and then this is the before and you have the after. Stay tuned for tomorrow, and see you tomorrow for a new episode.